Oh. Hey everyone, and welcome to Positivity in Action. We are back for our second season, and we're kicking off with Kursty, Kursty, tell us, what are you here for?
Well, I run groups for parents with children of the age between 0 to 2 years old. So we look at the very early stages of 0 to 1, and then we start looking at the 1 to 2. So I teach sign language, and I teach British Sign Language, which is used within the deaf community. And the reason I do that, because it's an amazing and beneficial tool for pre-verbal development in terms of speech and in terms of education, and really just supporting their mums and dads and the families in communicating at home and communicating with everything around them to be happy and confident.
It sounds absolutely amazing. I know I wish that I'd been able to do it when mine were little. With Ethan, he's autistic, and I wish I'd had a way to communicate with him so much easier than having to battle through that. So how do you go about teaching young children?
The main thing is motivators. So it's really finding what they want. I teach 150 signs over a year, and that's a hell of a lot. So the main big tip that I always say to my families is motivators. What motivates your little one? So the very early signs of eat more, milk, them ones are amazing, because you think the amount of times we use them signs. Mum, I've got 4 children of my own. You know what I mean? I get it. It's hard, and then them routines become so quick and so boring, and it's just about going, do you know what? They want their milk. How do we know? How do we know they want their milk? Well, we're mums. Of course, we know they want their milk, but it's really just picking up them subtle cues rather than going, do they want their milk? Do they not? It's the guesswork aspect of parenting. You know what? What do they want? And go, right, well, do you want milk? Do you want milk? You give them the milk. You then say afterwards, oh, you've had your milk. Well done. That's amazing. So it's really picking up the motivators when they're first born, and then working on that. So we're helping them label what's happening around them. Because did you know, amazingly, children have rights from birth? And you think, how? How can they have a right from birth to be heard? They can't talk. They talk in other ways. And that's the big thing about sign language. They naturally use body language and their hands and their arms and their vocal cords. I'll say their voice. It is still their voice. But they naturally use all these different things from birth. So all I'm doing is just enhancing that. So we work on, obviously, the eat more, milk, play, all them things that they really enjoy. So we're connecting them signs to what they already do. So we are putting them into context. We are putting them into action, because it's a very multi-sensory tool. Because you think of the amount of cognitive development it takes to memorize all them signs and to link what they're doing with their hands to what they're doing around them. That can take time and practice and familiarity. So it's really just getting to know the little ones first. And then once I get to know them, I can then say, right, try this sign, try this tip. Let's see if we can push that and introduce, I don't know, Sophie the giraffe, you mean, and introduce the giraffe sign. Just make it really fun and friendly and something they can do to keep them present. So when they reach about 1 to 2, that is when you start looking at them feelings and emotions and the colours and toys, all the things around them that they then want to engage in. Once they 0 to 1, all they're really interested in is you. You are everything. So we're going from you two, so the parent and the baby bond, and we're then going, right, that's secure. we've got that. Let's bring in other things around them, because say 0 to 6, they can't see anything further than about 20 centimeters, I believe it is, like really short. I can't remember exactly, but it's really short. So they can't see that far anyway. So all we're doing is really just enhancing that powerful tool of mum and baby to then go, right, now let's open up the world where they're confident, secure, happy, and we can really start to engage them and build on their language and their signing skills. And say it's not just about signing. Communication is never about signing. Communication is everything. It's about looking at their emotions. It's about looking at what they actually want, expressing their needs and wants from as early as possible. I've had a baby this week who's just learnt the sign of milk. And that seems really simple, but she was able to say that I want milk from a very, very young age. My own son signed milk at 3 weeks old. And
That's amazing.
it's amazing. And he signed mum at 1 month old. And you think, how does he even know what mum is? And I did take that one, by the way. Mum won. Mum before dad.
So important.
I won that one. But he signed mum purely because he couldn't find his milk.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And without him knowing the sign for mum, he would have just sat there and cried. He literally just signed and went, mum. We didn't say it, obviously. He was a month old, but he was just doing that. I'm like, what does he want? So I went to him, and then he saw me, and then that's when he signed the milk.
Yeah.
So but it just helps them build. It just makes it calmer. It makes them calmer. It makes you calmer. It reduces that guesswork. I think, from a personal opinion, I think that's a lot of where the postnatal depression side of it comes from. I think I struggled with it. I think every mum struggles emotionally when their child's first born, because it's hard. It's not easy. There's no manual. And I wish there was. I really do. That would make it so
I
much
might have
easier.
to create a manual. Should I create one? Because it'd have to be like this long though for like every single child. I wish I could create one too, because I could have done with it as well.
Yeah. I must admit though, each child I've had have been completely different.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing. Working out what they want, and just bearing in mind they are completely different.
Yeah.
I think parenting, my confidence has changed with every single child. I think my first one, I was scared stiff. I didn't have a clue what to do. I was like constantly thinking, do you know what? Why can't I do it? What am I doing wrong? And I just constantly felt like I was doing something wrong. And I think the confidence and competence as a parent, you sit there and think, oh, I'm useless. I'm rubbish. I can't do this. It's not going to happen. I'm doing something wrong. And then you get everyone else around you going, why don't you do this? And why don't you do that? And I think in some respects we need that. But then in the other respects, you then start thinking, why didn't I think that? Why didn't I think to do that? Like what makes they are amazing. And then you go, oh. So I think your community is really important. And I think that's what groups nowadays, I think they build on that community that we sometimes feel we're not a part of. And it can become isolating because you're left, well, not left, but you're at home essentially going, right, I now have to learn how to look after this baby who can't talk to me, who can't tell me what they want, and they're just screaming at me. Whatever I do, it's not working. I've changed their nappy. You've done all them things that you're told to do, change the nappy, offered tried to give milk and they've only taken an ounce. You think, well, they're obviously not hungry. And you've wasted all that milk and you think, God's sake.
Oh, I don't miss those days.
So we go from finishing work, having our identity, even pregnancy itself is a form of identity. And you have all them science, like the evidence that the brain changes, where like the baby brain and the brain changes. And then afterwards, It changes again. So the mum goes through so much, even before the baby's born. It's then having to change again. And it's exhausting. It can be exhausting.
Yeah.
And that's what the groups for me are about, going, do you know what? It's okay to feel exhausted. It's
Mm.
okay to not know what you're doing. And that's the biggest thing, to go, do you know what? It's okay. We all at some point have felt that. Just because we're coming to the class now going, oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? It's from experience.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, it's from going, do you know what? I've been there. And do you know what? I've tried that. It didn't work, but it might work for you.
Yeah.
But I think as parents, we can sometimes feel judged. And that's just because we often don't have a clue what we're doing. And it does come from learning and going, do you know what? We don't know what we're doing. You're asking us to work out what we're doing, as well as make sure they're socializing and make
Mm.
sure they're learning and make sure like they're putting puzzle pieces into pieces, and make sure that we can attend to them as soon as they cry and to know exactly what they're doing. You may
Mm.
not know why they're crying. And again, that's okay. And I think that's the biggest word of going, that's okay.
Yeah.
And I really want my groups to be about building that community and making parents go, do you know what? I don't know what I'm doing, but that's why I'm here, to kind of to feel a part of something, to feel like I have a purpose, to feel like that I'm valued, and as a mum and as a person. And we forget that when we become mums, we are still people. We
Yeah,
still
definitely.
person. Yeah. We still did. Maybe like for me, my personal hobbies. I'm a pianist. I
Mm.
love playing the piano. Yes, I'm deaf. And there's that whole cliche and the stereotypes of how can you play when you can't hear the music?
Oh, love a stereotype, right?
Yeah. Just my biggest thing, stereotypes. I really hate the word stereotypes. And it's
Mm.
because I come from the deaf community. And in class, a lot of my families, they kind of see that culture, because I will introduce things like that as
Mm.
rather than clapping. And I will say, we do that because we do this because, and it's just in introducing ways of communicating, really, just to get them to go, do you know what? Speech is not everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to kind of go, do you know what? Let's introduce them to other ways of communicating, so that when the children do go to school, they don't experience um, stereotyping, then they don't experience that inequality. And they kind of understand that other children, they may not be able to talk. They may sign. They may show,
Yeah.
show their emotions in other ways. And that's where the autistic side comes in. I am autistic, and I am quite emotional, and I'm quite visual in how I teach, and I'm quite structured in how I like that kind of that pattern, that routine.
Mm.
And I think children crave that pattern and that routine, and it helps them build. It's like a building block. It helps them understand the next steps on what's going to happen. And I
Mm.
think whether you're neurotypical or neurodivergent, that pattern of being able to kind of follow does help relieve some of that frustration. So I always teach, for example, bath.
Mm.
Doing that sign on its own means absolutely nothing. You need to be able to get that child in that environment. So start running them taps. And that's what I say. And this is what I say in class. This is what I teach. I'll go, do you know what? Run that bath, put that shower on, whatever you need to do. They need to kind of see the pattern between water and having a bath. I got to
Yeah.
the point where I could do that sign with my oldest one. He'd actually go to the bathroom and stand next to the bath, because he knew he was going to have a bath. So that connection of the sign to the bath and to the bath is massive.
Yeah, I think it works a lot with even without sign language. Having that preemptive way of teaching, it works really well with neurodiverse individuals. It's, you know, if you want them to get dressed, then show them the steps, take them through it, do that movement, do that action. Don't just expect them to know everything. They're not born knowing everything. You said
Yeah.
you wanted to talk about postnatal depression. You've already talked about how with your business you're building community and you're making a space for that communication and that strengthening of parents when they're in those really vulnerable times of not really knowing who they are.
Yeah.
What else do you
It's
have
that
kind of tips wise?
It's that disconnection. I think with postnatal depression, it can often look as though they're flat. I think it's a terminology I've heard, and it can make the person seem as though they're not quite there, that their mind is just not quite in that moment. And for me, my classes are about getting the parent in that moment. It's that disconnection, and it's helping them to become present and focus in the activities they're doing with their children. So rather than them just giving them their milk, is helping them, is giving them a step, is helping them kind of stay focused in what they're doing and engaged, because that sense of achievement, that sense of purpose with postnatal depression, they kind of lose that connection. And I think it helps with the parent baby bond, in to give them that tool. And it gives them a sense of, right, I'm doing this. I need to be able to give them their milk. Right, let's get the milk out, milk. And it's that step-by-step process of keeping them in that moment, that focus. And I think that's what signing does for them. It helps them to slow down. It helps you to foster that intentional interaction. So it's just keeping them in that activity, that moment, which is really important for the baby. And I think that's a lot of what professionals are worried about, in that postnatal depression, that they can sometimes lose the ability to understand what the baby needs and be able to actually do that there and then. So I think it helps bridge that disconnection, and it helps the parent be more focused on the child. And then what I do in class is I also have activities in a private group. So I give them things to help bring out the endorphins in the mum. So make them go out for a walk, go and look for birds, go and look for a duck at the park, all them different things.
Duck?
Yeah, quite, yeah.
I need to know now.
Yeah, so go and look for them ducks and all them different things. And it's about also, I try and introduce the family. So when they say, can I bring siblings? Of course you can. Because the more people that are trying to communicate and talk to you and talk to the baby, the better. With postnatal depression is isolating. And all you want to do is just sit there and just cuddle your baby. And sometimes that's what you need.
Yeah.
I get it. Sometimes that is really, and that is really important. I'm not saying don't do that. Do that, definitely. That them endorphins are heightened when you hug and when you kiss, and when they're closer to you, that connection is a massive, massive thing. So do definitely hug, do definitely kiss, do definitely pick them up and swell them, swirl them around, but you know what I mean?
Maybe not smell them. Depends on what time of day.
Yeah, but that kind of that connection is needed, and that's what I want to get them to do. I want to get them to go, shall we read a book? Shall we, I don't know, shall we sing a song? Which is obviously what I'm, like the main thing I do in class. Singing, shall we do row your boat? Shall we, it's just getting them to engage.
Yeah.
And it's that disconnection. That is the main thing with postnatal depression. That is it is a massive thing, that disconnection. So I'm just trying to get them to connect with their baby. rather than me. Obviously, I'm a role model, and I will show them how to do it in class, and I will say, and I will, and with one of the children, I will probably pick them up and go, "Shall we do the hokey cokey?" Yeah, that you went like left leg out, left leg in, all them different things, just to show them that this is what I want you to do. And it's okay if you can't do it right now. That's what the private group's about. That's what encouraging family members to do, to kind of help you with. And it's just basically being there. I want a big part of what I kind of lost with my first child is I I struggled to have I didn't have that friendship group basically. I moved from one place to another, and I lost all my friends, and I was very unconfident in groups. I was very nervous, and I hear that a lot. It's amazing the amount of times I hear that with my current families, where they say I was really worried about coming, and I look at them, and in my head I'm thinking, yeah, I know that feeling. I really struggled, and the only group I actually attended was Time Talk, to be fair. But that's because I'm deaf and no signs. So that's obviously
Kind of
my
important.
yeah. That was my first. That is my first language signing. So I went because it helped me come out of my postnatal depression. It helped me to be a little bit more. And I do remember going, and I do remember sitting there thinking, I don't want to interact. I don't want to talk to any of the other mums. I just want to be with my son. And I do remember that. And I think that's what drove me into building this group, because I didn't want other mums feeling how I felt like the first time round. And obviously this time round I've managed to bring my baby, which has helped.
Always helpful to have one that you can practice,
Yeah, and he's now in nursery, which is kind of a bit sad, but that has been my next obviously process. I'm now obviously having to learn to let go of him a little bit more and to give him to nursery nurses. And I get again when my family say I'm going back to work, and I think, yeah, I can remember the first time round phoning the nursery every 15 minutes going, is he okay? Is he okay? Is he... I must have been a nightmare for nursing for them.
I think we go through so many transition moments as parents that are so stressful, and we don't know what we're doing because there are no guidebooks. There are no, someone telling you, oh, it's okay to feel like you're having a complete nervous breakdown because your child's gone to nursery today and you don't know what to do with yourself. And then so many people cycle with that loss of identity, even, and having groups like what you're creating can give such a grounding experience for people who are really struggling. And you talk about building this community and making a safe space, and I think it's also having the daily structure where you're teaching signs and you're having to do actions to put them in place. If anything, you're creating that daily structure and that daily routine, which is also helping the postnatal depression and the transitions, because that base of, oh, I've got to learn this new sign, is actually something to focus on that isn't the feeling of being lost and the feeling of not knowing what we're doing. It's something they can cling to and go, oh, I know how to do this. Let's do it.
Yeah, no, I think the first time around, it was for me, it was very much that I am a trained nursery nurse. I mean, it's something I've done for 21 years. It's children have always been my life. The very first, have been my life. Sorry, the very first child I ever had was deaf, and he's now passed his driving license. So,
I know the
feeling. But people often ask me, how did I get past the first few years? And I often turn around and say, and I look back now and I go, how did I do it? But I think for me, I say now that I just went back to being a nursery nurse. I went back to doing what I'm trained to do, because I didn't know how else to do it. To be honest, I didn't. And I didn't know how else to do it. I went back to my nursery nurse roots. I done what I was trained to do. And they go, but isn't that a bit cold, a bit emotional? And I go, it got me through. So I think that's not how I feel now. And I've kind of worked my way through, and doing the business has helped me. And having that support network has helped me. I've got an amazing husband, to be fair, and his family have been there for me, and they've allowed me to go through this process with my new son a lot easier, and it's been a lot more enjoyable. It's kind of helped me emotionally a lot more. But I think the first time round, I tried so hard, and I done everything I could. And as parents, we try so hard to just give them everything we can. And I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and I done everything I thought was right. And I was like, do you know what? Right, this is what I'm trained to do. Let's just do it. But I think if I'd had that support that I've got now, the first time round, I would have found it a lot easier.
Yeah, I see. I went the opposite way. I had mine very young. I thought, yeah, I had mine at 18, and I was like, I don't know what to do with you. So I went to college at that point to train to do nursery nursing as a way to try and understand what the
Yeah,
hell to do, because I was so lost and confused.
that's similar to what, yeah, in a different way, but
Yeah,
similar. My background and my knowledge in order to get me through, not knowing what to do. And I think with postnatal depression, I think you hit that point where you don't know what to do and you don't know what to do next. You don't know where to go from that moment. And you feel like everything you're doing is wrong because they're just sitting there crying at you.
yeah,
And they don't
definitely.
know what. I always joke that is actually quite helpful for me because I can't actually hear them crying. Um,
Well, yeah, I can see how that
and-
I'm pretty sure it doesn't work that way, but yeah.
So I see children in a very different way, and I connect with children in a very different way. But I do believe that it's helped me to understand where babies are coming from. I know that sounds a bit strange, but they don't see the world in how we see it.
Yeah.
And that's what I say to parents. It's like you need to look at what they're looking at.
That's
If they're
one of my
looking
favorite things to tell parents as well. So I'm with you. You
at,
need to kind of look where they're at, not where you're seeing them. I'm really sorry. We're actually going to have to ramp up. We're going to have to finish off. We could just keep talking forever, and I know we could. Um, I've got
yeah,
one quick question for you in the last 2 minutes of this. What would be one resource, apart from obviously your business, what would be one thing you would kind of go, oh, go read this, go look at this podcast, go do this, and it'll really help you if you're struggling with postnatal depression or those moments of feeling alone right now?
don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
It's my massive thing. Um, spend more time outside. And that's what I try and do for my activities. I try and encourage families to be outside more. And yeah, just don't be so hard on yourself. Remember that you're learning as well as them.
Yeah.
And that there's always someone who's willing to help. Don't be afraid to go, what did you do? If it works, brilliant. If it don't, at least you've tried. Never give up.
Definitely. That is a beautiful last tip. Thank you. I think I agree with that one. Just get outside and find your local spaces. There's normally activities and activity groups for children to explore local spaces, forest schools, all kinds of outdoor resources that will probably really help you feel a little bit better because you're getting some fresh air. And I know that sounds cliche, but it really does work. thank you so much, Kirsty, for coming on today. It has been
Thank you.
so brilliant to meet you. And if you are listening to this, please subscribe, leave a note, leave a comment, whatever you're supposed to do. All Kirsty's details and mine will be in the description underneath this video or beside it, where depending on where you're viewing it. We will see you soon. Take care of yourselves, everyone.